Oh, welcome to the Sharpe Show. So happy to have you with me here this evening, a little bit past 7 p.m. on the East Coast. And I didn't know where I wanted to go with this show today. I wasn't sure where I wanted to go, but I noticed something, and maybe you have too. All of a sudden, I've noticed that immediately, maybe right after the RFK Jr. jumped on the Trump train, I feel like Trump has been doing a whole lot of non-traditional media. A lot of it, podcasts and things like that, Twitter Spaces, those types of things. Things that he wasn't doing, right? He really wasn't doing much of that. I mean, some of it, but not much of it. Now it's heavily, he's doing that a lot. And he mentioned, he was just recently on the Lex Friedman show. I didn't finish the entire interview yet, but it made me think, this is what I want to talk about. Because I remember this kind of growing, if that makes any sense. What do I mean by that? Those of you remember that when I ran with this awesome shirt back in 2018 when I ran for governor, I was, as an independent, trying my damnness to get media. And it was very challenging for me, very challenging. Now, I said to myself, wait a minute, I'm raising all this money. I raised $500,000 for my campaign, which for a state campaign as an independent candidate was a lot of money, particularly in 2018. So I raised that money. I'm not getting as much press. So how do I do it? So I got to get mainstream press. That's critical, right? Got to get mainstream press. That's what I thought was number one thing to do. So trying. I got some here or there, and it was pretty good. But then, many of you know, I was on Rogan. I didn't understand what that meant. I've told this story before, and it's the same story every time because it's true every time. People are shocked. 2018, I didn't know how popular he was. It's true. So my team tells me, I have a team working on this, of course, obviously. My team comes to me and says, hey, Larry, great news. You're going on Rogan. I said, Rogan? They went, yeah. I said, what? They went, Joe Rogan. And I'm not joking. And people, my team will know it's true. I literally said, the Man Show guy? That's what I actually said. That may be embarrassing, but that's what I actually said. I said, the Man Show guy. They went, Man Show, what are you talking about? He's got this great podcast. I went, oh, he does? Oh, that's a good thing. They're like, yes. Like, what's wrong with you? I didn't know. That is how my head was in mainstream. I was thinking mainstream. That's what I was thinking. So I'm like, I guess that's good. Like, yeah, you're going to fly out to California. I'm flying to California. Okay, fine. I'll do it. I don't care. Whatever. We'll do it. So true story. I fly out to California. That morning I show up. And some people ask me the same question all the time. You know, what's Joe Rogan like? I'm not his friend. I want to act like I'm his friend. I wish I was his friend. Joe, if you happen to be watching and you require another friend, I'm available. But I'm not his friend. I'm a guy he met. That's who I am. So please accept that what I'm saying. I'm not trying to act like I know him well or something. That I'm not trying to pose here. I'm not fronting here. I'm just telling you what happened. So I get there early. Good candidate that I was. Sitting in the green room waiting. He walks in. And he says, literally, Sharpe here. I said, yeah, right here. He goes, great. We come in, sit down. He puts his headphones to put mine on. He does this. He goes, 3, 2, 1, Larry Sharpe. That is how I began that interview. No prep, no nothing. Walked in the door, did the interview, came out right afterwards, shot pool for like 5 seconds, and I had to catch a plane because I had to head back to New York. I was campaigning. I couldn't spend time hanging out. I didn't have time. I wish I had. Knowing now, I wish I had spent the whole evening, but I didn't. I had to head back. I was campaigning. I was running a serious campaign. So, back I go. So I think, okay, I guess that went well. I look at my social media. Afterwards. It exploded. My team knew. They were like, this is going to be great. I'm like, okay. Like, I believed. I knew they were lying. I believed them, right? I believed them. But I just didn't think it would be. My social media doubled. I went, at the time, I think I had like 10 or 11,000 people on my YouTube page. I went to like 25,000. Like, in a week. I mean, it's just crazy. Everything exploded. I said, well, this is great. Oh my God, I love it. So it was good. Donations came in. That was nice. But it wasn't as awesome as I expected it to be when it came to money. I wanted more money. I was greedy. I was bleeding funds. I wanted more money. So yes, Missy was there, by the way. Here we go. Missy was there. Thank you, Missy. Missy's been with me forever. She's the best. I adore her. She said, I can still remember crying when you got accepted to Rogan. We did an insane media blitz for his attention. Yes, she remembers that. Absolutely. Absolutely. Missy was part of that, 100%. So yes, and Lucy Libertarian, thank you so much for the super chat, my friend, the $2. Joe Rogan's had many libertarians on. True, but I have a very special, I guess, honor. I am the only libertarian he's had on who was actively running for president. I'm sorry, for running for office, not president, for office. He's had president candidates on, but I'm the only one who he's actually had that was running for office actively, libertarian. Only one. So that was it. He said libertarians on, but it wasn't when they were running for office, and it wasn't local. It wasn't. So that's a special one I have. So I feel very proud about that one. So thank you for that. He has a libertarians one, exactly. But anyway, my point being, that was bigger than I thought, and that was 2018. Now everybody wants to be on Joe Rogan, right? I didn't realize how popular it was. Now everybody wants to be on it. It's crazy. So that was great. But let me go to another piece if I could. While that was wonderful, I'm happy I will go on again. I'm happy that I did it. No shade. I'm going to another piece though. Did I get a bunch of votes from it? I would argue no. Why? Did I get a bunch of money from it? No. And how do I measure that? Because I also went on another podcast that same year within a similar time frame. And that podcast was Dave Rubin's podcast, which I don't know if he still does one, but he used to back then. He did a podcast. And I actually knew of Dave Rubin because I'd actually seen him on some political TV show. He was much more of an activist, clearly more of a political activist than Joe Rogan was, right? Absolutely. So when that happened, I got on Dave Rubin's show, but his show was much smaller than Rogan. Similar situation. I had to fly to California. At this point, they were both in California then. They've left. Rubin is now in Florida and Rogan is now in Texas. But they were both in California, Southern California at the time. So I fly out there, and at this time, he has a setup which I was totally jealous of. Beautiful house. Next door, separate building is his entire studio. And I'm like, man, what? You get up in the morning, get dressed, walk 5 minutes, not even walk 2 minutes. You're in your studio. Just great setup. So I go there, do that show. That show, I did not grow my social media as much at all, but my donations were at least double, if not triple, what I got from Joe Rogan. You might say, wait a minute. Dave Rubin's show in 2018 was nowhere near as big as Joe Rogan's. True. How could you get more donations? Different audience. That's the issue. And that's the key to this. It is a different audience. Who am I looking for? Am I looking just to grow an audience, just to grow my own audience? Joe Rogan, hands down, not even close. If you can get on it, go ahead. Am I looking for votes? Am I looking for donations? It may not be that one. It may not be that one. It may be a different place to go. Social media, while valuable, and mainstream media, while in certain eyes not as valuable, can be very valuable when you're running for office. And that's the key exception. If you're running for office, what you actually want is the right audience. That piece matters more than anything. Lunatic, again, thank you again for the $2. I appreciate the super chat. I have watched your podcasts with Joe R many times. Thank you, my friend. It's one of my favorites. But my actual favorite actually is not Joe Rogan's. My actual favorite of 2018 was actually Glenn Beck. So if any of you want to watch my Glenn Beck, you can just Google Larry Sharpe Glenn Beck. It's on my YouTube page also if you want to check it out. That is actually my favorite of all of them. I love Joe Rogan too. Glenn Beck's my favorite interview. Dave Rubin's was good too. I liked all of them. But my favorite is Glenn Beck's. I do love that one. Another super chat. Thank you, Matt, for the $5. Larry Sharpe's that data security with Naomi. For those who aren't paying attention, he says, I've been wanting to take control of my data. I interviewed Naomi Brockwell when I was at Freedom Fest this summer. I just posted it on my YouTube page, and I think I also posted it on, I posted on Twitter also. I posted on Twitter, YouTube, and probably Facebook. So if you're on any of those, also Rumble. So if you're on any of those watching, feel free, head on over there And you can see that one. It's only about 15 minutes long, but she talks with the details of privacy and also of security. So please check that one out. It is good. Thank you, Matt, for checking that one out. It's a short one, but it is a good one. So if you have a moment, please check that one out. That'd be great. Thank you for that. By the way, you guys want to know why these guys super chatting? Because if you want to support the show, there are many ways. One of them is click the button that is like, hip check it, nose punch, head butt it, whatever. Bite it. I don't well, bite it probably gonna hurt. Anyway, do the thing. I don't care how you do it. Click the button that is like, because I get shadow banned all the time. Any bad word I say, any bad word you guys say, I get shadow banned. The way I get around that is by you clicking the button that is like. Whatever you are on, click the button that equals like. If you're on Twitter or Facebook, please share this thing. Whether you're gonna repost it, re-exit, share it, whatever, please let people know. It does matter. If you're watching on YouTube and you have not subscribed, it means you hate Joe Rogan. That's how I'm going to take it. You hate him. I'm deciding that if you do not click the subscribe button, or you might hate him. Well, that means no. Okay. Whichever if you actually hate him, that means you love him. How about that? It's the opposite of what you feel about Joe Rogan is true if you do not click the subscribe button. So please do that. Subscribe. Most of the people who watch this show, sadly for me, do not subscribe. And then they say, I don't know why I can't watch the show. Well, subscribe and it'll pop up on YouTube. Click the bell for notifications and it will show up then. Right? So do the thing, right? Do this thing here that I'm showing you right now. See that? Click that thumb. Click all of the things. I gave you guys a little thing, so you should be happy about that. And of course, if you want to, you can always super chat me on YouTube. I'm Larry Sharpe YouTube. And you can also become a member if you'd like to. Click that button, $4.99, $5 per month to keep me doing more and more and more of this and less of the other things. So I hope that was semi-clear at least. Hopefully. We'll see. All right, so if I can keep going down this road, if I may. So it does matter where you're going and what you're trying to achieve. I was happy again that I was able to go on Joe Rogan. Of course, I would go on again in a heartbeat, please. Of course I would. But the issue becomes, right? The issue becomes what matters most when it comes to politics. And I would say it's changing. Because sometimes you've got to go for the kind of the social media to get to mainstream media. You might go, Larry, nobody watches CNN or Fox News or whatever. No. People do. It's a lot less. It's maybe 500,000 people, give or take. At a good night, maybe 1 million. You might go, 1 million? Is that a lot? No. Rogan gets what, 10 million for one, something like that. A lot of people get that kind of views. A lot of them do, right? So why? Here's the difference. If you watch CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, any of those three, the odds are very high you vote. That's the issue. The audience, while there may be a smaller audience, is the perfect audience. It's the audience that, probably 95% of the people, I'm going to guess, who watch those three mainstream stations vote. Right? Joe Rogan, half of people probably aren't in the country. So probably 10% vote, which is still great. I'm happy to get 10%, right? I'm happy. But maybe 10% vote, maybe. Where the mainstream media, 95% vote. So that's why so many politicians want to get on mainstream media. Not just that. What is an independent? And that's a separate piece. If you are a mainstream candidate, you will get on those because you're mainstream, you're a Democrat, Republican. If you're independent, if you're libertarian, if you're green, if you're Constitution, if you're any other party out there, your number one goal, is not people know who you are, it's legitimacy. Legitimacy. Mainstream media brings legitimacy, right? I was on Joe Rogan, I was on Glenn Beck, and still people don't want to put me in the polls. Yes, more important was absolutely becoming more important. That's the issue, is mainstream becomes more important when you're running for office. I'll make sure that's clear, particularly if you're running as independent. This is one of the reasons why RFK Jr. struggled, because he couldn't get there. He couldn't get to the mainstream media as much as he could. They were literally banning him from that. But now it's funny. Now he says, hey, I'm going to pull out of these 10 states. Just going to run for a 5% program. Okay, awesome. Now he's on mainstream media. And where's Trump? He's on all social media. Like they swapped. I think it's not a bad idea, to tell you the truth. I think it's not a bad idea. I think you want to be doing both. That was my entire point, right? I do think you want to be doing both. But now look at the difference. Here is the biggest difference. The biggest difference. And that is when you go on social media. And now because news can also be social media, right? Like The Hill Rising, Breaking Points, shows like that, even TYT, places like that can actually be like news. They have news programs. Sometimes people go on those shows and think it's like mainstream news. It's not. If you ever try to run for office, or as me, you see, I'm office as a surrogate for somebody. That's one of the things I do as a consultant. I'll be a surrogate for a candidate. When you go on those places, you have to realize something. If you go on, say, CNN or Fox or MSNBC or any of those, you get about 6 to 12 minutes maybe in that area. That's about it. It's a small hit. It's a fast hit. They ask a question, try to get an answer, try to get a soundbite, and they're out. That's it. But when you're online, things change. Why? If you're a Breaking Points or a TYT or a Rising or something like that, you don't have a sponsor. You don't have to go, you have to do a commercial break or keep your sponsors happy. Your people are watching and paying you. So you can interview someone for 5 minutes or 2 hours. Doesn't matter. You can't escape. You're going to be able to actually go through things and have conversations. And that's what's funny is many of these interviews where they get screwed is when they do long form. Now, I was learning long form back in 2018 because that's all I could get. I couldn't get the 3-minute interview on CNN. All I could get was 2 hours on Rogan, an hour on Glenn Beck, an hour on this guy's show, a half hour on this guy's show, 2 hours on that guy's show. And I do my own show, for an hour, 2 hours, whatever. I do a show like that. I've become so accustomed to this that now when I go into on these other shows, it's easy. It's nothing. But a lot of people who've actually done this in the past now move in and begin to fail. This is one reason why you don't see Harris on these. She can't escape. She's not pushed up for time. If Harris went on like a longer show, they could talk to her for an hour. She would look like an absolute moron. She'd look terrible. She would collapse. And they just keep pushing her. They wouldn't be able to go, well, I got to change. I have 3 subjects I have to cover in 20 minutes. Let me keep, if you dodge enough and give me enough, BS, I've got to keep moving. No, not at all. Not when you're online. Not when you're on my show. I'll keep asking you. We'll sit here for 20 minutes on one question. I don't mind. So it's a whole different way of looking at it too. So I bring all this up to kind of make you think about what's happening now. Social media is becoming more popular than mainstream media. However, mainstream media is still where people are seen as legitimate. And still, because remember, most people who vote still to this day are over 50. It's the truth. If you're over 60, like 90% you vote. Who's watching the mainstream news? Those people. The voters are watching mainstream. And that is why it's so important. Jennifer says it perfectly. She says it. Boomers watch corporate news. And then she says, I'm $15 a month. Buy a cable subscription, Jennifer, and welcome aboard. That's all I'm saying. Make sure you have your cable subscription and welcome aboard. I watch all 3. Pick the 1 or 2 you want to watch. One of us. Thank you. Welcome aboard. So yes, in any case, No Sound Much Live says Rising and TYT have massive money backers. The Hill, NBC, party donors. You, Lotus Eaters, crowd have to work 3,000 times harder and rely on subscribers and far more accountable. But this is, but hold on one thing though. TYT, not as much. When TYT went against the mainstream, they lost a bunch of backers. And that I got to give them, right? I'm clearly, Cenk Uygur and I are not going to agree on many policy issues. Obviously, Mike, that's true. However, I always try to give credit where credit is due. He did walk away from a lot of backers. And if you notice, if you watch his videos, say a year ago, 2 years ago, maybe a year or 2 years ago, they were hardly ever hawking for money for membership. They were hawking, but not that much. Now they're hawking all the time. They're hawking all the time to try to get cash. So he did lose a lot when he went anti-Biden. When he lost a lot. So he did lose something, is all I'm saying. I'm just being clear. He did lose something. That's all. So I wanted to cover those pieces if I could. The other piece I'm going to bring up is, let me grab a couple questions if I could. Let me grab some questions before I move on. Mike also says, a good question. Younger voters are moving away from print and traditional media, but with AI and focus on headlines, is just online enough, especially with school indoctrination, rewriting history and morality. This becomes the hardest piece. My daughter, who's 20, she looks at a picture and goes, that's AI. Like that. I'm like, is that AI? That's me. She's like, nope, it's AI. All she knows it isn't. Like she looks at it and knows. I think the younger people are kind of getting the AI piece better than guys like me, is my assumption. She picks up on it immediately. Is it enough? I think most youngsters are aggressively one way or the other. You guys tell me if you think I'm wrong here. I think most youngsters either watch a whole lot of individual things, like spend a lot of time with it in their ear while they're doing things, and they watch a lot, listen to a lot, or almost nothing. Like almost nothing. And like TikTok tells them who to vote for. So I think it's one or the other, to tell you the truth. That would be my gut. That's how I feel from the people that I see. That's kind of what I see. So yeah, that'd be my view. So, all righty. Matt says, what if the libertarian that Trump promised is Tulsi Gabbard? Tulsi's not a libertarian. No shade. I'm just telling you she isn't. She has libertarian leanings. She does, no doubt, but she's not a libertarian. She is what's the best way of describing her? Maybe a conservative Democrat? Maybe, if that's true. Are there any blue dog Democrats left? If there are, maybe she's that. Maybe. But again, she has some libertarian views. No doubt she does, but I would not call her a libertarian. So if that's the libertarian that Trump's going to give us, not great. Not the one I wanted. I'm happy she's there. Good for her, but not the one. No, not the one I wanted. Yes. So, all righty. Noah says, Larry, please tell the audience there's no way the DNC would martyrize DT on the 18th. All right. Noah, I'm going to tell you what I think is happening. For those of you who don't know, Trump, well, there's some important cases happening this week and next, and I'll cover these now because you asked. This week, tomorrow actually, in New York City, I will be there in downtown Manhattan. We will be having a court case to see if Bobby Kennedy Jr. and others will be able to win a federal case and get on the ballot in New York State. Yes, that'll be happening tomorrow, I believe 2:30. If any of you happen to live in New York City or in the area, please feel free. Head on down to the Thurgood Marshall Courthouse in downtown and be there by 1 p.m. if you want to see us all there in a rally, and then head on in 1 p.m. if you could, if you want to go do that. So that's this Wednesday, tomorrow. Then on the 18th, Trump gets, without question, he gets sentenced. Now, is it possible that he goes to jail? Yes, that is possible. Is it possible they put him under house arrest? Yes, that's possible. Is it possible they sentence him and say, go out and you're free until your appeal? All of those are possible. Now, let me give you the likelihood and I think the impact of each. I think the likelihood of them putting him in jail are slim. And here's one of the reasons why. Here's one thing Donald Trump has done very well. And I know some of you don't like Donald Trump. And again, I'm not saying I like or don't like. I'm saying what's effective and what works. What Trump has done very well is he's created what people are calling the Justice League. And people say, oh, that's because unity. Maybe, I don't know if that's for unity or not, but here's what I do know. He just gave himself 4 to 5 very effective surrogates. That's brilliant. If they do put him in jail, then those surrogates have to go out and talk about him all day long. Tulsi's out there now. They threw J.D. Vance out, and people thought that was dumb. They're like, why are they throwing J.D. Vance out there? He's getting his butt kicked. No, he was the attack dog. He was the frontline guy. They threw him in front, and the media devastated him. Are they devastating anybody else now? No. He took all the slings and arrows. He broke the hole, and the rest of the team is now going through that hole. That's what actually happened. And it was a savvy move. I know some of you thought it wasn't. It was a savvy move. JD took a lot of those. JD's a Marine. He gets it, just like me. He gets it. He's like, we're going in. JD went in as a Marine, took all the attacks, and broke a hole for the rest of them. So now the rest are there. If he does go to jail, you now have JD, Vivek, who they kept Vivek back. They know how effective he is. They threw JD out there. He got hammered. They kept Vivek back. Now Vivek can go through. Tulsi Gabbard can come through. RFK Jr. is already coming through. He's everywhere now. All that's happening now. That was planned and perfectly done. Well done in that regard. I would have advised the same thing. So nicely done in that regard. So if he does go to jail, he's got a bunch of these surrogates out there. And now to your point, Noah, you're correct. He'd become a martyr. If he's in jail and all those surrogates are out there, I think that would be terrible for Democrats. I can't imagine them doing that. I mean, look, the average Democrat would love that. Many average Democrats actually hate Donald Trump. I mean, with a passion. They hate him. They want to see him in jail forever. So I could understand why they would want that. I get that. But that's an emotional charge that I think would not make much sense, right? But I get why they want it. I think if Democrats are savvy, what they do is they sentence them to a heavy sentence, like 10 years or 20 or something, and then sentence him, but then let him go and say, well, you'll be free until appeal, or something like house arrest, or something maybe something light like that, where he's just like checking to a parole officer or something, just to embarrass him and to hurt him. The goal of the Democrats is to have Trump out there running, but crippled. That's their goal. Now they can go convicted felon, 10 years, whatever. They can do all the stories on how the orange man is bad and he's going to jail and he's just criminal guy. That is the story. Now, if I'm Democrats, that's what I want. That's what I want. I want to where he has to go check on his parole officer when he leaves the state, that kind of stuff, right? This is what, if I'm a Democrat, this is what I want. I want him running, but crippled. Now, again, if you go back about a month ago, he didn't have many surrogates. When he was crippled, the whole campaign was crippled. But whoever's running his campaign, I don't know who thought of this idea. Now he has 4 or 5 heavy hitter surrogates. If he does get crippled, he has 4 or 5 people out there doing the work. And now what else has he done? This other savvy part. Why do you think he's doing all this social media? Why? So you know when everyone else can get accustomed to him being on social media. Because if he has to be on house arrest, if he has to be in a jail cell, everyone will come to him. And he can be on social media. Meanwhile, mainstream media is going to be J.D. Vance, Tulsi Gabbard. You see Tulsi Gabbard's already on mainstream media. RFK Jr. So he covers the mainstream media with his surrogates. And then he covers the podcasts with himself, whether he is physically in jail and house arrest or has some other restrictions so he can get around it. It was the right move. I know many of you didn't see that, and I get it because this isn't your world, but that was the right move. Now, here's the problem with Harris. Harris's surrogates aren't showing up. They need to. But the problem is she hasn't shown up yet. She's got to get out there and get those surrogates out there. They haven't. The problem is because she's been so recluse, is that the right word? She's been so much of a recluse. If all those surrogates get out, it becomes odd. It becomes odd. She is only going to go on mainstream, I think, because if she went on an actual podcast, she might get roasted. So she's got to go on mainstream. If I was right now consulting with Harris, I'd be telling her, go on all the friendly stuff only, send all your surrogates and everything else. But here comes the problem. The heavy hitters don't want the surrogate, right? I've been a surrogate for RFK Jr. in the past, right? I want to go out. They don't want me. They want him. I get it. I want him too. I get it. They take me when they can't get him. Okay, that's how surrogates work. But I'm telling you, if you're Democrats, I will try it anyway. Just my view. So I hope I answered your question. No, I hope I did answer it. So yes. All right. Lila says, I wouldn't have had any idea about Joe Rogan myself. Yeah, a lot. I wasn't alone. See that, Lila? I wouldn't be alone. 100%. I knew him from The Man Show, which is a Comedy Central show, I think. I think so. Suburban says, how did your team even swing getting JR to sit down with you? 2 things. 1, Missy was there. We did a massive, and I mean, for my 2018 campaign, we had a very large and effective social media team. We did a massive social media push talking about my interesting ideas. Now, any of you want to run for office, here's the thing to remember. If you run for office as a Democrat or Republican, you do not have to have any policies. I'm not joking. Kamala has none now, right? Harris has none right now. Harris has no policies. You don't have to. All you have to do is say, I'm better than the other. And you're good. That's local. Does not matter. You just go, I'm better than the other. I know I killed one guy, but he killed 3. So I'm better. Don't vote for the mass murderer. Just vote for the murderer. Done. You'll protect me. When you're independent of third party, you must have actual plans. Or you, again, dismissed. You're not real. You're not serious. You're not real. Where's your policies? You're not real. Where's your guys' policies? Doesn't matter. That's how they think. The other person doesn't have to have it. You do. If you have an interesting policy or interesting policies and a decent social media team, you can get on shows like that. Rogan liked me because he loved my bridge idea and he loved my school idea. He loved my policies on fixing education and fixing infrastructure without using taxation. He loved it. He said it on the show. Loved those 2. That was the issue. He thought that was interesting. He never heard that before, right? Glenn Beck said the same thing. He said, Larry, I've never heard these policies before. I'm like, yes, I had to create policies. And those of you who remember my team, I was on policy every week. We did hours of policy every single week. Created tons of policies. That's why when you hear me talk now about my policy, I can give you the details. I can do 2 hours because I spent so much time working on policy. So yes, I hope that answers your question. That's how you do it. You have to be, you can't just go, this is what I love. I'm sorry. You bring up something, super weapons. The amount of times that I meet somebody and we talk when I'm running for office. Oh, yeah, I'm running for, they go, Larry, you should get on Joe Rogan. They say stuff like that constantly. Larry, you should be on mainstream media. Wow, I never thought of that before. Oh my God. I thought I should sit in my house all day. You've told me I didn't know that. Let me just call up mainstream media and say, hey, I need to be on. People would say that all the damn time, and it would drive me crazy. It would. Now it doesn't anymore, but it used to drive me crazy all the time. You gotta get your name out there. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh my God, get my name out there. What a great idea. I should hire you to be my spokesperson. Constantly. Why aren't you on CNN? Because I just call them up and they just do as I say. You're right. I control CNN. I am the CEO of CNN, and I'll just go on whenever I want. I heard that so many times when I was running. It's crazy that people don't get that. They literally don't want you. Like, you could call all day. They don't want you. They want their people on. And one of the reasons why is you don't buy advertisements. And you might go, Larry, is it pay to play? Yes. It's always pay to play. So Democrats, Republicans, every single year, Democrats, Republicans spend millions of dollars buying ads. Independents don't. So when the Democrats, Republicans tell them, don't you dare put the independent on, they go, okay, because you give us millions. Okay. And they don't. Yes, that's a real thing. So anyway, let me grab a couple more super chats if we can. Lunatic says, build traveling gallows. I'm not going to do that, but thank you for the idea, but I'm going to go with no on that one. Appreciate that. We did that before. It didn't go well. Let's not do that. But thank you for the idea, Lunatic. I do appreciate it. Ryan, thank you for $2. Larry, your bridge ideas are fantastic. Thank you, my friend. I'm always thinking about ways to give more people better service without raising their taxes. And as I would say this one, if any of you are listening who were on my policy team back then, I keep it even when I was in 2022, there were 3 or 4 rules to my policies. Rule number 1, never, ever, ever in any additional taxes ever. No additional taxes, no additional fines, no additional fees. Whenever possible, reduce, but never add. No, any policy I ever had will never add any tax, fine, or fee. It will either be nothing, and I don't mean neutral. I mean, we add nothing. You add nothing or reduce, either one. So that's rule number 1. If it adds anything, it is a non-starters policy, number 1. Number 2, no additional policing or police force. So you cannot create something that will get you, and now we'll add inspectors, now we'll add a police force, now we'll add enforcers. No policy may ever add any additional. Again, keep the same or reduce, but you will never, if you have to add any enforcement at all, non-starters policy. We cannot do it. Third, if it focuses on people or families or individuals, we always focus on the middle class, right? And the working class. The working poor, middle class, the working class. You focus on helping them. Larry, why not the very poor? Why not the very rich? The rich don't need me. They're good. They're fine. They're doing great. In fact, they're not going to vote for me. They're going to vote for whoever is in charge because life is good for them. They want status quo. So they're not even my constituency. So I don't worry about them, number 1. And the very poor. Who really helps out the very poor? Who does? It's the middle class and the working poor. They're the ones who are actually putting together actual community groups. They're the ones who are actually putting up, nonprofits. They're the ones who are putting their hands out to help. They're the ones who are actually giving. They're the ones actually doing the work who are helping the poor. If I help the middle class and I help the working poor, I by default help the very poor. Plus, one thing government is very good at, keeping the very poor alive. Not in a good spot, but you're very poor, you'll live. They'll make sure they'll give you just enough so you can survive. You will live. So you're taken care of at that level. The people in the middle and the people in the working poor will actually help you and bring you up. So focus on that. 4th point, if I focus on business, I always focus on the entrepreneur class, not the corporate class. The corporate class is never our friend. The corporate class always destroys us. The entrepreneur class is what actually helps out individuals. They're good for local. They give people second chances. They're the people who, when you're in trouble, hire you. They're the ones who have the most innovation. They're the ones who bring up communities. You focus on the entrepreneur class. That is how we build ideas. That is how we build policy. That's how I got that idea for bridges. So I have 4 rules that I will not break when creating policy. Those are the 4. every policy I have will always make sure those 4 things are true, or it's not a policy. I will start from scratch. Not going to work. Redo it. I hope I answered your question there. So yes. All righty. Lila says, so many have now expatriated to Texas. The West Coast goes to Texas more than the East Coast does, right? West Coast goes to Utah, Texas, Idaho, goes to those areas. They go to Florida and stuff too, but most go to those 3, maybe give or take. And when it comes to East Coast, they tend to go to Florida, Tennessee, in those areas. They tend to Carolinas, those areas. So generally speaking, that's how that works. Faithful friend wants to be on Sharpe Way. All right, reach out to me. See if I can get you on. Happy to have you on. 100% happy to have you on. Yes. So, all righty. Lila goes on to say, I may have heard the Glenn Beck. It was a great interview. It was my favorite one. Yes, it was my favorite one. Yes. Alexa, thank you for being a member. Larry, did you see the order that North Carolina's ballot is in and how completely ironic truly is? The ballot access issues. People asked me a long time ago, months ago, when I said, I'm so happy that RFK Jr. is running. And people said, why? You're a libertarian. Why do you care about that? Why? I said, because I knew something. I knew I'd be able to talk about ballot access more than anybody else. But why? We have ballot access problems all the time. Yes, but whether you like it or not, Bobby Kennedy Jr., RFK Jr. is popular and raised tens of millions of dollars. That's just true. And it's true. I have spoken about ballot access this year, 2024, on mainstream media, on social media, in front of more people and more times than every single libertarian ever has in the history of the Libertarian Party combined. That's how many times I've spoken about it. How many people I've been able to talk to. What reach I've been able to have. Sometimes I will do 3 or 4 media hits per week, sometimes 5 or 6 per week. And every time we talk somehow about ballot access. This piece is so critical. Most people before this year, most Americans had no idea. Most probably still don't. But a huge chunk actually understand, oh, this is unfair. Yeah, it is. So, yes, it is ironic because Democrats, Republicans don't care about the law. They care about how they can use the ballot to their benefit. And if that means suing you off the ballot or keeping you on the ballot, it doesn't matter. Whatever will work for them. Most people don't know this. And I say this all the time. Barack Obama sued his guy off the ballot, his own party, for him to win his seat in Illinois. He sued a guy off the ballot. They'll sue each other. They have to. They use whatever tactics are required. Yes, no matter what, they sue them all. So anyway, yes, thank you for that. All righty. Lila goes on to say, Glenn Beck becomes so emotional. Glenn Beck and I think, are actually, I would say I'm much more of a friend to Glenn Beck than I am to Joe Rogan. I only met Joe one time, like we're not buddies at all. I hope he remembers me. I mean, he might not. He has what? Since I was on 1,000 shows, I was on show 1167. And he's like at 2,000 now. So, I mean, maybe he remembers me. I hope he does. But we're not close in any way, shape, or form. Glenn Beck and I actually know each other. So, I mean, we're not buddies, but we know each other. So, I think he was closer to me in that regard, probably still is. So, yeah. Joe says, what do you define as legitimacy in terms of a candidate? It means that the mainstream audience thinks you have a chance at either impact or victory. That is how I define it. The mainstream audience goes, yeah, that guy can make impact or that guy could win. Either of those two. Most people think if you are a third party or independent party, libertarian, green, whatever, you have no chance of winning and no chance of impact. Therefore, you don't matter. Therefore, you're not serious. Therefore, you're illegitimate. That is how they think. We want them to think, oh, no, that's Joe guy. He could do something. Not illegitimate. And if most of them believe that, I would call that legitimacy. That is how I would define it. If they believe you can actually make impact and or win, now you're legitimate. That's the key piece. And generally speaking, they see that by ways that don't make sense. They see that by you're in polls, which may or may not matter because you can buy polls. They see that as how much money you raise, which is more realistic. But in theory, for those of you who run for office, here's the odd part. The amount of money you raise, it doesn't matter how much money it costs you to raise it. If you're in business, it matters tremendously, right? If I'm in business and I got to spend $9,999 to raise $10,000, That's a terrible business model. I got $1 profit. That's garbage. In politics, doesn't matter. The fact that you raised $10,000 makes you special. Doesn't matter how much it costs you to raise it. It makes no sense. It's 100% true. It's how it works. So while legitimacy sometimes can be measured by how much you raise, sometimes you can just throw money at stuff, right? All depends. So, but it's often by how much money you raise. And also if you are in mainstream media, I see all the time as I would travel the country, I haven't seen you on CNN, or I didn't see you on Fox. And that's in their mind. If I don't see you on my mainstream media of choice, you are not valid. You are not legitimate. So people do think that too, right? So, well, I watch Fox or I watch MSNBC. You weren't on one of those. You aren't valid. That's how that works. So I hope that answers your question. So, all righty. See if I can grab this here if I can. Mike says, I'd add to the restricted list any party candidate that isn't establishment or party approved. Mainstream media ignores the unapproved. Like, I'm going to add, you're right, Mike. I should have added that. And I'm going to give you someone like, for example, Marianne Williamson. Now, some of you may or may not like Marianne Williamson, but she's a Democrat and she ran against Biden and they just ignored her. They ignored her. She was running. She had applied. She was raising money. She was a Democrat. She was running in the primary. And she was known, like many of you have heard of who she is, right? So you may not like her. I don't know if you like her or not, but you probably heard of her. Many of you have at least. So why didn't she? Because she wasn't party approved. She wasn't establishment. So no, agreed. Yes. So Lila says, LP stands for Libertarian Party USA member for life. I am indeed a lifetime member of Libertarian Party of USA. However, I'm also an honorary lifetime member of the Iowa State Libertarian Party and also the California State Libertarian Party. I'm an honorary member of both. I'm an actual lifetime member of those because I don't live there. So I'm an honorary lifetime member of both of those because I've raised lots of money for both of those state affiliates. So they were like, stamp of approval. And I did it for free. So like, well, you did that, you get to be that. So that's what I am. So yes. All right, Jonathan, how are you, sir? It's pathetic. Media and money determine elections, not policy and integrity. 100% yes. I wish you were wrong. And I got to tell you, for those of you who saw me run last time in 2018, one of the reasons why I ran again in 2022 is because I saw that. I was angry, so I ran again. When I couldn't get into the polls, and I'd ask them, why am I not in the polls? And they go, what do you mean? Well, I'm running for office. I'm at this point, 2018, I was on the ballot. I was the legitimate, duly nominated Libertarian Party candidate. I'd raised $500,000. Why am I not in the polls? They go, oh, well, you don't buy the poll. I was like, what are you talking about? No, you buy the poll, put you in the poll. Pay to play. I didn't know that. How would I know that? I just thought they did the poll. No, someone buys the poll and they write the thing and they tell you who's in it because they're paying for it. Oh, how much does it cost? They said $40,000. I didn't have that kind of cash. How am I going to pull $40,000 out of my campaign when I'm barely surviving with it? And then maybe I do a poll, I put my name in it, and then I get my butt kicked in the poll. Now what do? So yes, it was about cash and media. It wasn't about my policies. In fact, how do I know that? My policies have been on my website since 2018. No one's taken them. I've openly said, take my policies. Take them all. I have a piece from Joe Rogan. True story, Joe Rogan says, these policies, these your policies? I said, yeah. He goes, you better lock those things down. I said, why? He said, people take them. I said, take them. Take all of them. I don't have to run. Fix my state. I'll go back home. I don't want to do this. I'll go back home. Take them all. He laughed. I was serious. They're still there. You can go there now and take them if you want to. Nobody will. Because you're right, Jonathan. It's not about policy. They say it is. It's not. It's about media. It's about money. Yes, absolutely. 100%. 100%. But thank you for that. I appreciate that. So, all right. If I grab a couple more of these. Let's see here. Matt asks, Larry, do you have a Patreon? It's a way to support you outside the big Google ad base. I do. You can. If you go to the show description on YouTube and also the show description on Facebook, you will see it is patreon.com/sharpeway. If you want to support me, you can. Please do so. Happy to have you there. But it's a bit more expensive, $10 a month on Patreon. So if you want to help me out there, do that. Or you can just donate if you want to because you love me, because I'm a handsome guy. Absolutely possible. Head over to, I do have you can join me on Facebook. You can subscribe to me on Facebook, subscribe to me on YouTube, or you can also Patreon me. It's all there if you want to go there. Of course you can. Whatever you feel. 100% whatever you feel. Absolutely. So, all right. Jacob says, do you think that the DNC will be desperate enough to try and get the judge to send Trump to prison? And if so, what would that mean? It's time for RFK to take over. I talked about the first piece, why I thought that would not happen. I mean, it's possible. I think he will be sentenced, but not go to jail. That is my thought. And I think it'll be a harsh sentence, like 10 years or more. That's my gut. He gets 10 years or more, but does not go to jail. To me, that seems to be the most devastating thing that Democrats could do to him. It's what I would tell a judge to do if I was a Democrat. You're like, Larry, you tell judges? They're all politicians. Of course, judges are too. So someone's telling the judge to do. Of course they are. And RFK would not take over, meaning if Trump goes to jail, that doesn't stop him from running, right? You can run from jail and win from jail. You absolutely can. But here's the problem. If he runs from jail, this is a state crime. So actually, he can't pardon himself. He can pardon himself from a federal crime. This is a state crime. He can't. It would take Kathy Hochul to pardon him to get him out of jail if he's in jail. So how does that work? That'd be some weird. I don't know. People have been talking about Kathy Hochul, believe it or not, just pardoning him to get him out of this and let the people decide. That actually would be fair, but come on. But yeah. Anyway, the point being that he can still run from jail, would not change anything. But would RFK Jr. take over? Yes and no. Take over meaning the mainstream media. Now you're going to find, as I said earlier, Tulsi Gabbard will be out there mainstream. So will RFK Jr. They'll all be mainstream because Trump won't be able to, because he'll either be in house arrest or in jail if they sentence him and put him into that area. Those circuits will be out there. You're going to find J.D. Vance will be out there. Vivek will come out. You'll see them all out there being surrogates for him, talking about what a martyr he is. And I think that might actually work. So, yes. I hope that makes sense. Sal says social democrat. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, of the 90s. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. John says, Larry, what's the difference between an independent and libertarian? Most people, and this is not clear, most people see any third party, and they often see it as also as an independent. People see it that way. There is a difference. Let me explain. People go, well, independent third parties. They think of them as the same, which means any party that isn't the Democrats, Republicans. So a libertarian would be an independent party. Green, independent party. Constitution, independent party. However, in reality, that's not technically accurate. It is how many people speak and what they mean when they say those words. But actually, independent means no party. That's what it actually means. However, in speech back and forth, we often use third party or independent party as synonymous. So in conversation, they're often the same, but actually independent would be someone who has no party. That would be an independent. I hope I explained the difference. So yes. All right. Carmen says, yo, I was subscribed and then it unsubscribed me and unliked the video. What's going on? That happens all the time. That is why I keep saying it. YouTube literally unsubscribes people, drops people, takes people off my stuff all the time. It has happened ever since 2020 when I was against the mandates. I wasn't even against the virus or the stick. I wasn't against either of those. I was just against the mandate. That's all I said. Mandate's wrong. Do what you want. No mandates. And they're like, oh, clearly evil person, destroy him. And that's what's happening all over. So yes, that's why I keep bugging you. Please make sure you're subscribed. YouTube still does it. I say any bad word, I get demonetized. Any bad word, I start losing followers. Any bad word, I start losing subscribers all the time. It is the norm. So yes, Carmen, I'm not surprised. That happens constantly. It's why I keep bugging you. Click the like button. It's not because I want to bug you. It's because the system is against me and I'm trying to break that system. That's why I ask you to please subscribe, click the bell for notifications. Please share it so others see it. The more they share it, the more things happen, the less chance to do this to me. That's why I ask you to become a member. That's awesome. If you would, there's some members here. I appreciate that. You can join for $5 a month, or you can always super chat me and get your chat right to the front. That always helps. But that's why you keep seeing me say, like and subscribe. That's why I keep doing it, because I've been shadow banned literally for 4 years now. Terrible. You would think a guy like me would have a much larger following, and I wouldn't have to literally stream this on 8 platforms, which is what I do. 8 platforms. Yeah, I have to, because any one of them can be shadow banned. It's why I have a Larry Sharpe and a Sharpe way, because if they shut down my Larry Sharpe, which they have in the past, by the way, they shut down all my social media, and Miss, you remember this, about a week before Election Day. All of it. 2018. Facebook shut down, YouTube shut down, everything shut down. We had to say, I'm a running candidate for governor of New York. You can't do this. They put it all back up. I'm not even joking. Everyone, Miss, you remember, she was there. They shut it all. It's like a week, no, 2 weeks. I forgot. It was within the last month. I forgot what exact time. It was like a week or two out. Shut it all down. So not the first one. Not surprised at all. Ryan, thank you for being a member, my friend. I know a ton of young people here in Missouri who never watch MSN. They also depend on TikTok, podcasts for news. A lot of them are very much into AI. My daughter's 20. The only time she watches mainstream news is if she happens to be sitting next to me when I have it on. You're right. My daughter's 20. If I happen to be watching it, yes, she'll watch it because I'm there and she's talking to me. Oh, who's this person? Right? Whatever. That'll happen. A lot of her stuff comes. I'm guilty of this too, though, Ryan. You guys know I have a team. And sometimes you'll see when stuff gets posted, it's not me. It's one of my team mates' responses. Sometimes, I know it makes you mad. Sometimes it makes some of my teammates. Sometimes you'll see things posted, my teammates. And a lot of people in my world. A lot of people respond to me, text me, call me. Very often, I'll learn things, not from watching mainstream media, but from someone texting me, someone DMing me. Hey, Larry, did you see this? Hey, sometimes I learn on the live. I'll be on the live. Someone say, hey, what about this now? Oh, I didn't know that. What happened? That happens sometimes. Well, now I know that. So now maybe someone like Missy, somebody goes, hey, Larry, what about this? She'll text me. She'll say, look at this, check this out. And then I'll do my homework on that thing, right? Then I'll learn for the next time. So I'm guilty too, except it's not TikTok. It's people who will reach out to me in some way. I actually respond to a lot of people, in case you haven't noticed. For those of you who pay attention, I do respond, I do listen, and I try my best. To respond to the best of my ability and do that. That's what I hope. Mike thinks I'm wrong. He thinks that Trump gets 2 years house arrest, $150 million in what? Results in $150 in donations, and a 5-point bump in the polls overnight. Massive backfire. Okay. We're going to know in 2 weeks, Mike. I think he's not going to jail. I'm maybe house arrest, but I think not going to jail. And I think it's not 2 years. I think it's big. I think it's like 10 years, 5, 10, 15 years. That's what I think. I think it's very high, 5, 10, 15 years like that. And I not jail time though. But I would have to guess, not house arrest. He's free. But like has to check in with his, I don't know, his parole officer every month. Something that will make him feel small or attack him because they hate him and they want to punish him. That's my gut. So we'll find that in 2 weeks. Who's right? Yes. Thomas says, Marine strategy, run to the machine gun so the Marine can flank the position. You got that too. JD Vance? Yes, you got that too. I agree. Yes, then that's right. All right. All righty. Sal, the Hampshire says, Larry, I do have a question. How does it go? They've been trying to close Rikers for at least the past decade. Are they going to send Trump there? I do not think Trump will go to Rikers. I don't think he'll go to jail at all. But if he does go, the jail comes first and then prison. So he would be a felon and he would go to prison. Rikers Island is a jail. So they might hold him there until they figure out what prison he's going to. If they remand him, again, I do not think they will, but if they remand him, they will probably take him from there to the Manhattan holding facility, is Manhattan, where the Steen of Ep, I don't want to say the word because I'll get in trouble. The Steen of Ep was found unalive. That was the Manhattan holding place in downtown Manhattan. They would probably bring him there first, process him there, take him to Rikers Island, which is an island off of Queens. Take him there. He's there for a couple of days. They figure out where he's going upstate. All the prisons are upstate. The jails are in New York City. The prisons are upstate. And they'll send him then to a prison somewhere in upstate New York. I don't know which one, but one of them upstate New York is where they'll probably send him. My thought process, though, is that will not happen. But if it does, he'll only spend maybe a day in Manhattan, maybe, and then he'll spend several days in Rikers. And if they do that, they are going to have to really set up Rikers. Like he's going to have a separate wing. Because remember, he still gets Secret Service. I'm not joking. He would be in jail. Yes, he'll be in jail with Secret Service. He's still a former president. He's still running for office. He's still a Secret Service. So he'd be in Rikers Island with Secret Service. I'm not joking. That sounds insane because it is, but that will be true. So he'd still have access back and forth. Secret Service members to go in and out. And federal is going to trump state. Good word, Trump. Yes, it's going to trump state. So yes, that's going to happen. So yeah. And by the way, trying to close Rikers, they're not going to close Rikers for a while. They have no answer, right? People say, Larry, are you against or for closing Rikers? As always, if you have no plan, no. And New York is notorious for close it because we feel bad for prisoners. So we close it. No answer. It's a disaster. And of course, what will happen? Why do they want to close Rikers, Sal? For those of you who don't know, if you don't live in New York City, Rikers Island is an island, literally an island, off of Queens. Between, if you see the Bronx is say here, and then where you're looking at Queens, we say here, and then right in between is an island, and it's Rikers Island. And there's a one road that comes from Queens into Rikers Island. Why do they want to close it? Because, man, would that be some prime real estate for some rich people to live in a nice gated community? I'm not joking. Real estate people cannot wait to get their hands on that island. That will be some prime real estate. You go right from there into Queens, cross the Triborough Bridge into Manhattan, or make on the bridge going to the Bronx, upstate New York, to your places out in, hanging up there in the Hudson Valley or your new homes up there. Rich New Yorkers would love to live on Rikers Island once they tear that thing down. So I went way off topic, Sal, but I want to give you the answer. That's how do I know this? Because again, as I said, I'm a consultant during the day. That's what I do. I consult for law, tech, finance, and politics. Those are my 4 places where I consult. One of the ways I consult is with literally criminal attorneys. I will help them with jury selection, help them with opening and closing statements, things like that, right? How to cross-examine witnesses, stuff like that. So what I do for a living. That's how I make my money. It's how I pay my bills, right? I do it that way. So I've literally been to these places to help get people out, put them back in, blah, blah, blah. Yes, that's how I know. And by the way, odd thing, my father was in law enforcement. He was a corrections officer on Rikers Island. So I know the system relatively well. I hope that answers your question. I know I go deep sometimes, guys, but you ask me the question. I want to go deep. I want to give you the right answers. I want you to feel like you've gotten something out of this, right? Yes. Ryan, thank you so much for being a member. Says, to his credit, J.D. Vance really tore into Tim Walz when nobody else was. This is the issue, right? You really do want to be able to have a vice president who can attack. You want surrogates who can attack. You guys have seen me. I've attacked on behalf of other candidates. You've seen me do it. You've got to be, if you're going to be a surrogate, you've got to be able to strike. In the best case scenario, if you can, best case scenario, your candidate is much more magnanimous and the attack dogs are much more aggressive. That's not always true, but that's your best case scenario. Reclusive. Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you. My chat is very smart. You guys are great. Thank you for that. Yes, reclusive is what I meant. She is reclusive. There we go. Yeah. Matt says, man show was Jimmy Kimmel and Anna. No, there were 2 man shows. There were 2 man shows. Matt, check it out. I'm not making it up. One of them had Joe Rogan on it. Yes. And was it Stanhope? Doug Stanhope and Joe Rogan did 1 man show. Jimmy Kimmel and Adam Carolla did another man show. There were 2 man shows. I know you guys don't know this, but Matt, I'm telling you, there were 2 man shows. It was Doug Stanhope and Joe Rogan, and the other one was Jimmy Kimmel and Adam Carolla. There were 2 of them. So yeah, absolutely. Jacqueline says Joe Rogan used to host Fear Factor. Yes, I remember that too, the Fear Factor guy. Yes. Yeah, I know that's kind of an odd thing to remember, but yes, it's true. Absolutely. Yes. Noah says, if you want to run for office, all you say is I'm better than the other. Here's the worst part. Policies are irrelevant. Here's the worst part. And that is, if you are running for office in general and you're a Democrat or Republican, you don't have to be perfect. In fact, I can hate half of your policies. I can think they're bad. You say it all the time. I forget about, I don't like his policy on this, though. I don't like his policy on that. Well, why am I voting for him? Well, at least he's not this. If you're a Republican, at least he's not a Democrat. At least he's not a Republican if you're a Democrat, right? But if you're independent, Noah, you have to be perfect. You have to be perfect. The amount of times I heard this, I would do all these great policies they'd like. And then I'd say one policy. Oh, well, now I can't. I was going to support you, but then you said this, right? But your guy who's Democrat Republican could say horrible things all day long, and you're fine because at least it's not the other. But I say one thing wrong, and oh, wow, now. And then it's always, I get it all the time. Then it's all dramatic. I just lost all respect for you. I get stupid shit like that all the time. And whenever someone says that, I say to myself, you were never going to, in fact, now I say that to their face. I go, you were never going to vote for me. Stop. If someone does that and goes, now I was going to support you, but now you said this one thing. Now I've lost all respect for you. And I go, then stop. You were never going to vote for me. This was you patting yourself in the back, thinking you were special and you're different. You're independent. You're not. You're a blue or a red. You were always going to vote blue or red. You were going to find a reason not to vote for me. And now you found it. Congratulations. Go back to your team. That's the reality. If you're really into an independent candidate, you can accept that they don't believe in everything, but they believe in enough or the most important things for you. Either one. Otherwise, you're going to go back to red or blue. And I get, I'm not mad at you for it, but please just stop gaslighting me. That's my only issue. If you go, Larry, I'll vote for you if you're perfect. Okay, now we're talking. Let's have a conversation. I hope I'm perfect. You're not perfect. Sorry, going back to red or blue. But that, Larry, you're the best. I'm going to vote for you so much. Oh, but you said this one thing I don't like. Stop it. You're never going to vote for me. You gaslight me. Go back to your team. It's fine. When you're ready to come to me, I'll still be here. And I see that all the time. So yes, absolutely. All right, if I go down here some more. All right. Mike, is it pronounced Kehoe, who's a Republican running for governor of Missouri, is a rhino. He has no policies at all, just like our current governor, Mike Parson. He doesn't have to. Doesn't have to. And this is funny. People would tell me, I have a large policy team, right? It's not just me. I wish I was just one brilliant guy by myself figuring things up. I'm not. I have a team. And people know when I run, I will have 4 to 8 people on my policy team. I'm not joking, depending upon what policy we're talking about. And we'll meet every week for several hours and walk through types of things, go through what a law, who's responsible, the whole deal. And I get some amazing people, savvy, smart people on my team for free. Why? Because to your point, Ryan, current modern day Republicans, Democrats don't have policy teams. I'm not joking. They don't exist. They only have communications teams. You guys may not realize this. They don't. Why? Because if you're running for Congress or Senate, you can't pass any bills anyway. They don't let you. The rules they put into place, I'm not joking. The rules they put into place now, whoever runs the Senate or whoever runs the Congress, they decide what you vote on. Utterly unconstitutional, not in the Constitution, just made up, but that's the rules they made. Why? It keeps the riffraff out. They've made this rule. So you vote for a congressperson and you go, great, I now have a congressperson. He's going to go to Congress and he's going to present bills to be voted on. No, he's not. He's going to go to Congress, be told to shut up, vote on whatever the leaders tell him to vote on, and he's going to go on TikTok and Twitter and get mad. That's what's going to happen. I'm not making that up. That's what's going to happen. He only gets to put stuff out if they agree to it. Otherwise, he can't put it out. He'll write a bill. They'll ignore it. Never get voted on. Happens all the time. Look at all the bills that are in committee. What does that mean? I put them up there. They sit there. So why should they have a policy? They're not going to let them do anything. It's irrelevant. Irrelevant. Doesn't mean anything. Why bother? Not going to. Local government is controlled by state mandates and by federal mandates. So there's hardly any budget for them at all to do anything because it's all by state and federal mandates. So why have policies? You can't enact any of them. Doesn't matter. All you do is you decide who gets the money when you're grifting. That's what you decide. You hope it's your buddies. And then you have inside information so you can do some good, nice insider trading. That's how it actually works. Why bother having policy? You're not going to enact anything. You can't. I wish I was joking. I'm not. There's no need. So they have communications teams. What does that mean? The party says, here are your policies. How will you communicate those things? How will you call the other guy bad? How will you insult the other guy? That's what they have. So if you want to be a communicator or a PR person or a social media person, work for a campaign. Policy, you don't need that. When's the last time you saw a policy person on a campaign team? I'm not joking. Ask yourself that. They don't exist. If anything, think tanks. That's where Project 2025 comes from. Think tanks. Think tanks create policies. I get think tank people on my show. You've watched about policies. A think tank person will happily come on my show. Why? He can talk about policy. No one else cares. Congress people don't care. Assembly people don't care about policies. It's a waste of time. So they don't even have policy teams. I'm not joking, guys. If you look for a policy team, you won't find one. But you'll find them in third parties because they have to have them. So, yes. I hope that answers your question. I'm sorry. I go deep sometimes. Hello Mantra says, hey, Larry, is there still a path for RFK Jr. to win in a contingency election? So many people think he's fully dropped out, but he's still going on at least 42 state ballots. Yes, the goal is 40 ballots. He's trying to stay on 40 ballots. He made a deal with Trump for about a 10. He may not be able to, as Noah has shown us. He may not be able to because of their own rules and regulations they put together. But that, yes. Can he win contingency election? Yes. Is it likely? No. Being forward, not likely. But can it happen? Yes. Here's what has to happen, as I mentioned before. Continued election, he has to win at least one electoral vote. If he stays in and gets his 5%, which is what I want anyway, you can win a contingent election without 5%. You don't have to have that. Contingent election is about electoral votes. Party status and matching funds is about percentage of total votes. They're two separate things, right? Contingent election is about electoral votes. 5% and party status is about total votes, right? Actual direct votes, total direct votes. Two separate pieces, if that makes any sense. So in the case of contingent election, you'd have to have it to where neither Trump or Harris gets 270 and Kennedy gets at least one. Yes, could happen. The problem is you have to make that happen and Trump not have 26 states. The problem is because Trump has red states and red states have less electoral votes, but there are more of them. In a contingent election, each state, regardless of population, gets one vote. So the odds are Trump will have more states. If he has 26, he wins. So two things have to happen. Neither Harris nor Trump get 270, and Trump does not have 26 states. Harris will never have 26 states. The states she has are larger states, so less states with bigger numbers in them, but less states. So Harris will never, if Harris has 26 states, she wins the election outright. If she somehow gets 26 states. If Harris gets 26 states, she wins the election. There's no way she gets 26 states and does not win the election. So it would have to be both of them, and Trump does not have 26 states. So it could happen, yes. I just think the odds are slim. Still possible, though. I hope that answers your question. Yes. All righty. Let's see if I can grab some of these. Jackie says, I'd love to see you on CNN. I'm pretty sure the board would have an aneurysm. I would love that. Yes, absolutely. Sunny Libertarian says, how do you think aligning with RFK Jr. will affect your credibility? I don't care. I don't care. What, some hardcore libertarian doesn't like me all of a sudden? I don't care. If I run for office again, they'll get behind me. They always do. I'm not concerned at all. I don't know. My credibility has been the same the whole way. I want to make impact. People say all the time, Larry, why don't you run? If I can't make impact, I'm not running. Larry, why don't you support so-and-so? Can they make impact? No. I haven't said anything bad about libertarians at all. I like Chase Oliver. So don't think he can make impact this year. I didn't think Joe Jordan was going to make impact last year. I didn't say anything bad about Joe Jordan. I didn't. In fact, when she showed up in my state, I showed up because she came to my state. I didn't campaign for her. I wasn't a surrogate for her. The last surrogate I was libertarian was Gary Johnson in 2016 because I thought he could make impact. So I've been the same. If you think I've been different, you're not paying attention. I've been the same the whole time. And my policies are libertarian, but they're not anarchist. They're libertarian policies. So if someone is mad, I don't know if you're mad, I have no idea if you're mad or not scientific. But if it's you or someone else is mad, I guess you'll get over it. Or you won't. I'm not that concerned. I think I've been the same. That's my answer. Hope that was clear at least. Gene says, your bridge idea is so good that I wrote a letter to the mayor of Pittsburgh describing it. Oh, thank you. I gave you zero credit. It's okay. I've done the same to others, Gene. All good. Take all the credit. It's good. Instead, I worded it so that the mayor could take all the credit for himself. Oh, even night. Gene, that is super smart. That's super smart. I like that. I hope that they come back and do that. I worded it so that the mayor could take all the credit for himself. Either he or whoever handles his mail didn't care. Oh, that's a good idea, though. I think I may copy that. That is good. I do like that. That's good. Absolutely. Joe, so are you looking for candidates for the LDCL? Always, Joe. Do you know some? Always. I have another one coming on. Is it next week? Hold on. For those of you who don't know, I do Libertarians Drinking Coffee Lab. Yes, I have one coming on next September 12th. I have Sarah Luna coming on Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live, 3 p.m. next Thursday. I know not all of you watch Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live. It actually started, believe it or not, before the lockdowns. And it actually was Libertarians drinking coffee in diners, because I was making a joke off the comedians drinking coffee in cars. I was doing it in diners here in New York, and people would come to New York City, sit with me in a diner, and I would talk. And my first ones, if you look like 4 years ago, were actually me sitting in a diner talking to people. That was actually how it started. But then the lockdowns came and wrecked everything. So I said, okay, I'm doing it remotely. So I changed it from Libertarians drinking coffee in diners to Libertarians drinking coffee live. And I do it this way now because of lockdowns. I never stopped. So I do it. I try to do one every month at least. Sometimes do it every week. Depends on how fast people want to come on board. I'm trying to give libertarians an actual voice. They very rarely get media. They often don't have a place to talk about their stuff. So I give them my platform so they can use my platform to do that. So I don't know. Maybe this answers the credibility piece. I'm still giving libertarians platforms every month. And I would argue, is there another person who has any type of platform at all who gives as many libertarians the platform? This one I'm doing with Sarah Luna will be my 133rd. So I've given 133 libertarians a platform in the past 4 years. I don't think anyone else could say that realistically. And you can use the stuff you want as you want. I mean, if you want to market yourself, and I do an ask for them. Like I will help them raise money during that time. So yeah, I'm always looking for them, Joe. If you know some, just reach out to me. I'm happy to put some on. And if you're doing a fundraiser, I will often show up on your fundraiser. Did it for Fina when she was running for office. I helped her raise money, and I gave her money too. Did it for a couple people. I've done it a couple times. So anyway, I just gave Snyder money too. Nate Snyder. He was on. I helped him raise money, and I gave him money too. So yes, hope that was clear. Excuse me. All righty. Let's see here. Dave says government gives people just enough so he knows he's hungry. 100%. Yes. Yes, absolutely. That's so good. I like that. Raza says now Democrats are saying 2025 is all RFK's and Trump's idea. Whoa, RFK gets that. Okay, there we go. Good. Missy says, here's the Rogan link. Thank you, Missy. If you guys want to check that out, please feel free. Absolutely. You can check that out if you want to. Absolutely. 100%. But also, when you guys have a moment, please also check out the Naomi Brockwell video that is also on YouTube and also on Facebook, talking about security and privacy. It is a very good one. It's about 15 minutes long. It's a good one. You can check that out if you want to. It is really interesting. And that was when I was in that was when on Freedom Fest this year. So yes. Pinko Bell says it's not about having the money, it's about displaying that you can get people to give you lots of money. The party's like that. You know, Pinko Bell, very good point. I should be clearer about that. Yes, you did say that once before. And you know what? I should have kept that. I should have remembered that. I probably didn't remember that. But now that you say it, now it's back in my head again. All right. And I might give you credit for this time because you did it twice. So you know what? I may not do what Gene and I do normally, which is give them one credit. I might actually give you credit for this one, Pinko Bell. I appreciate that. Yes, you're right. It is about that. It's about knowing that you can get people to give you money. And I got to tell you, that does matter. If people sometimes get mad at me and say, well, Larry, I'm running for office and the party won't give me money. I go, did you raise any? Well, no, I want the party to. No, you must raise money. You must do it. The party gave me almost no money when I ran for office. And I've raised over $1 million for myself in the past 8 years. So 2 runs, about $500,000 both times. So I've raised $1 million on my own. And I've raised over $1 million for the Libertarian Party. Over $1 million for them. So yes, all the time. So you have to be able to make the phone calls, talk to the people, have people out there, talk to them, and get the cash. You have to. Otherwise, you can't. You just can't do it. Right? You've got to be able to get people to write big checks for 50 grand, checks for $250,000, as well as $3 here, $10 here, $25 here, $100 here. You've got to be able to do both. Otherwise, you should either do that or get people to do it for you. Either one. Otherwise, don't run for office. It's not going to work for you. If you can't get people who are motivated enough about you so that they can make those phone calls to those people for you, option one, or you do it. There are actually a lot of candidates who hate raising money. They hire people like me to raise money for them. I have no problem raising money. I ask you guys for money all the time. I ask for them all the time, right? I tell you, hey, guys, do this, do that, do that. This is why. Here's the reality. If you want something to be done, you should be okay paying for it if you want it to be done. If you don't care about a thing, you shouldn't pay money for it, right? If you don't care about it. If you're like, hey, I think this guy is great. I want, Ryan to be my mayor. If you want that, Ryan needs money for that. Give him some money. I'm not saying, I'm going to take 50 grand. I hope you all have 50 grand laying around that you can give away to a candidate. That will be amazing. I hope you all do. But most of us don't have that kind of money. But most of us could put out $5. Not everybody could. Some people can't do that. But most people could do $5, $10. Most could do that. You might go, but Larry, now I'm sacrificed. I can't get my latte today. Well, if that guy Ryan is actually running a real campaign, he's sacrificing too, right? When I was done my campaigns, I say this all the time, $100,000 in debt the first time, $40,000 the second time. Both times in debt, lost friends, lost time, wasn't working. I lost a lot. I sacrificed. In fact, the first thing I did when I first started my first campaign in 2018 is I wrote myself a check for 10 grand. That was the first donation to my campaign, was myself 10 grand. So if I'm going to give 10 grand, I can ask you for money. That's what I always say. I never point my finger at you. So I put my finger at myself first. And I love pointing my finger at you. I love it. So I got to put my finger at myself a whole lot because I really want to put my finger at you. So yes, I think this is a valid point. If you want to run for office, I'm not saying you have to, you need to either be able to find people who are motivated by you enough to ask for money, or you've got to ask for money, or don't bother running. And I know that sounds horrible, but it's true. It just is. So yes. All righty. Let's see if I can go down here. Morgan says cartels to operate the prisons. It's true. Yes. But be very tough, right? For them to hurt someone like that. Be tough. Yeah. So Missy, you are killing it tonight. Policy is LarrySharpe.com/policy. Yes, my website is still up. Pickup says Eugene Debs ran from jail in 1920. After running in 3 previous elections, he got 1 million votes from jail. Yes, being in jail does not mean you can't run. Absolutely. Yes, 100%. Noah says, people say it doesn't matter if we vote. But if it didn't matter, these parties wouldn't go through this much trouble, right? Correct. It does matter. The second thing is what they don't want. People say, well, I'm going to teach them because, I'm not going to vote. They want you to not vote. But more importantly, they want you to not show up at the polling booth at all. Right? The more people who show up there, the more chance that they find out something's going on. So I want you to both vote and show up. Both of those things are very important to me personally. That's what I think. But yes, voting actually does matter. If enough people vote, the more people vote, the harder it is for people to ignore. That is harder to. Doesn't mean all of a sudden tomorrow things get fixed. We're not going to vote we're not going to vote our way out of this. I'm not saying that, right? That's the issue. It's not like, oh, we all voted. Now America's great. That's not how that works. We all voted. Now the establishment gets scared. Now we have to start doing stuff. Now the work begins, right? The work begins once they get scared. So the voting is the first part. The voting doesn't fix anything. The voting now you started. So yes, that's clear. Ryan, thank you for the $5. Appreciate it. Third-party candidates running for office need to constantly raise money and buy the poll. Yes, FYI, I'm not running for mayor. Well, I tried, Ryan. I tried getting you to go. You wouldn't take the bait. I tried. I was wiggling it there. You didn't bite. It's fine. Yes, you do have to, because to your exact point, Ryan, you have to buy the polls. If you buy the poll, it helps tremendously in your legitimacy. One of the reasons why the Republicans got so mad at me in New York State and sued me off the ballot was I had 3 polls, all done by Zogby, and I was averaging polling at 6% in 2021 for governor of New York before I announced. Repeat that. I'm a libertarian. I was running as a libertarian. In theory, they knew who I was. I hadn't announced yet. And we did polling, and across New York State, in 3 separate polls, I averaged 6% for governor of New York against the current governor and a unknown Republican, right? Those 3. And I was at 6%. I was like, no, we were doing a Republican. We were doing Zeldin. Yeah, we're doing, and you can go check it out. That's public knowledge. You can check that poll out if you want to. Those polls. I was at 6%, and they were like, what? This guy's real and stuff. We can't have that. We gotta get rid of him. So yes, polling does make you real. It makes you legitimate, 100%. Yes. All righty. Lynn asks, is it true, Larry, it's true that 700,000 signed up to vote in November after Harris' coronation? Yes, there was a massive increase in voter registration. And here's the reason why, if you guys don't know this. If any of you are in the Democratic establishment, you'll know this to be true. You can validate this if you want to. Democrats in the establishment and most Democrats were very down when it was Biden against Trump. They thought Biden had no chance. I think that was accurate. I think Biden had no chance. They thought Biden had no chance. I think that was also accurate. They're like, why bother? Who cares? The war's over. Let's figure out how we're going to win the Senate or something, or win Congress or whatever. They were like, it's over. All of a sudden they decide, to anoint Harris, and boom, they're excited. So yes, there was a massive increase. And what most people don't know is most of the country, that's not true. A larger percentage of the country, plurality, is Democratic. No, not even plurality, is it? Yeah, I think plurality is Democratic. Largest chunk is. I don't know if it's plurality. I think actually independents or no party affiliation is probably the plurality. I can't say that word. The bigger of the three. How about that? That works. So yes, but I think there are about, if I remember last time I checked, about 49 million registered Democrats and about 40 million registered Republicans, if I remember my numbers right. It's about 9 million more Democrats registered than Republicans. So there actually are more Democrats than Republicans registered. This is why Democrats know that it's all about turnout. If 90%, 80% of Democrats turn out and only 40% of Republicans turn out, they win. They don't have to convince one Republican. If double amount of Democrats show up than Republicans, they win. So their goal is to motivate their base to show up. If Republicans don't vote for them, who cares? Just stay home. Don't vote, right? If you stay home and think the world's over, Trump can't win or whatever, or the reverse, it's a shoo-in. Trump is going to win, so I don't have to vote. Either one of those makes Democrats happy. So that's what they want. They would rather more people do that. So yes. All righty. The anti-corporatist, thank you for being a member, my friend. Larry, you should post links to your live show on YouTube, either when it goes or shortly before. That's what I do. I do that. That's actually already done. I do that. You're not seeing them? Yes, that I literally do that. Yes. Maybe I should do more of it. Maybe you know something I don't know. But yes. So, any case, yeah. Let's see here. Mike says they can't send Trump to Rikers or prison as armed Secret Service go with him. Too much risk. Issue was discussed and settled 2 months ago. Well, that's my point. If they sent him, they'd have to. This is why I don't think he's going to prison. I'm agreeing with you, Mike, right? I don't know if this was for me or for someone else, but that's my point. If they do, if the Democrats say, to hell with it, I don't care, he's going away, they're going with Secret Service, right? They'd have to literally have a separate area of Rikers Island for him, right? So if some judge says, I don't care, Mike, I'm doing it, and New York State judges might do that. I think the odds are grossly slim. I'm with you. I don't think it's going to happen, but I don't think the odds are zero. That's all I'll say. I don't think the odds are zero. I think very low, and I would bet it will not happen. That's how confident I am, but it's not zero. There is a chance some judge decides, I'm going to be a hero. I'm going to be popular and famous. I'm putting the president in jail. That could happen. The chances are not zero is what I'll say, but I think you're right. The odds are very slim. So yes. Yeah. Sal says probably to jail up by Watertown then. I don't know. They might put him in Dannemora. Who knows? I don't know. Might put him up there. I don't know where they're going to put him. Put him in Auburn. I don't know. I visit a lot of prisons. When I cross the state, I visit Attica. I visit a lot of prisons. That's how I know where they are, because I actually go visit them. I actually go visit the corrections officers. I'll visit the families of people who are incarcerated. And that's why I was trying to create policies I wanted to create policies for the people in prison that would both help the corrections officers who are getting hammered and also the families of those who are being punished, right, for what their family member did. And I wanted to kind of keep both happy if that's possible. And it's not easy to do. And people will often do one or the other. They go, oh, yeah, the prisons are bad because all the COs are terrible, or all the COs are right because all the people in there are animals, or whatever. They often go one side or the other, which neither is true, right? Of course, there are horrible people in prison. Of course, I'm not trying to pretend they're not. But there are also people, this is what I will always say. There's 3 types of people in prison. This much I know. Those who are terrible and should never be out. That's true. Those people exist in prison. Those who should do their time and then get out and get a second chance at life and move on. And those who should not be in prison. All 3 of those exist in prison. The problem is, I don't know which ones are which. I don't know. How would I possibly know? So what does the system often do? They're all the first type. They're all horrible people who are animals who should never be out ever. That's what they go to. And I'm saying, no, that's clearly not true. They're not all that. A chunk are that. That's true. But all aren't. In fact, I would argue probably most aren't, but some are. Who would know? The people who work with them every day. The corrections officers. And they've tried these types of policies before in Massachusetts, and they work. When you allow volunteers who come in from a certain group, whatever that group might be, whether it's drug users, pregnant moms, single moms, veterans, any of those, you bring them together with corrections officers who know which ones are the guys who probably should or shouldn't, be doing this. You have an actual better system to make things work better. Corrections officers are also hammered. The average lifespan of a corrections officer in New York State, 58 years. Every corrections officer I've met in New York State, and I've met maybe dozens, maybe hundreds of them, every single one of them knows exactly when they're going to retire. Yep. They're all like 14 years, 3 months, 5 days. All of them can do that. Every one of them. Every one of them knows someone who has deleted themselves. That's what I'll use. Every one of them knows someone who has deleted themselves. Everyone. There's not one who doesn't know. Yeah, that was so-and-so. Yeah, he did. Everyone. It is a very tough job. And for years, our previous monarch, His Majesty King Cuomo II, second of his name, would never give them a new contract. He sued them over constantly. So we want to make sure these things are fixed, is all I'm saying. I yapped away. I'm sorry. I went long. Jordan said, yo, brother Larry, I'm for president of the world. Larry runs the world. Thank you. I appreciate that. Maybe one day. We'll see. It could happen. Maybe it could happen. I appreciate that, my friend. I do. All righty. Okay. Oh, so there was one. Okay. Yeah. There we go. Joe Rogan, 32 episodes, 2003, 2004. See, there we go. I told you there was 2-man shows. You guys thought I wasn't. I wasn't making it up. There were 2-man shows. I told you. I was right. Yes. Noah says, your strike back at AOC was on point. I mean, I'm sure everyone could see she was being totally sus in her IG story. Yeah, that piece really bothered me. And the reason why I got mad at AOC, for those who don't know, I did a piece on AOC yesterday morning at 11 a.m. Talking because while she was attacking Jill Stein, which bothers me, not because I think, Jill Stein's awesome, but I think Jill Stein's real. I do think that, right? We don't agree on many policies, but I think she's real. I think she actually cares. I think she's doing what she thinks is best. I do believe that. I've met her more than once. I do think all those things about her. And she fights the same battle that I fight. And then AOC decided to say, I've run as a third party. And I was utterly triggered. Noah, I was completely triggered. I was triggered, no doubt. I was like, what? Don't you dare say you go through the same battles I go through. And I kind of went down that road and said some things that were not nice. I take none of them back. Jacob says, I'm not joking, Larry Sharpe. And I say that because the stuff I tell people, they can't believe it. So they assume it's got to be a joke, right? There's no way that's the way it works. No. That's how it works. It works just like that. The thing I just said is actually how it works. Yeah. Like, that can't be true. No. It's 100% true. That's why I've got to say at the Let It Land, I'm not joking. And you go to your, damn. Huh. Yes. Matt says, I love when Larry personifies our questions out loud to himself. Might say, well, Larry, oh, yes, thank you. Yeah. It presents the info in a good way. I like the yes, because I've done this long enough to know what many people will be thinking. So I try to answer the question for you, and you go, yes, I was thinking that. And then you don't feel like I'm not paying attention. It's one of the reasons why I do all these live, right? You notice it's hard to find, shows I do that aren't live. I do most of them live because I want that back and forth. I want you to know that I'm paying attention. I started doing this in 2018 when I was running for governor. And to tell you the truth, where I stole this from, believe it or not, Rudy Giuliani. Yes, when he was mayor of New York City back in the 90s, he used to go on WOR radio, I think it was Thursdays, at 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. And he'd do an hour show, and people would call in, and he would just take their questions and answer them. I forgot the guy who was doing it. Was it Gambling? John Gambling, I think, was doing it. I think that's who it was. back in the 90s. I think it was the Gamblings. They were doing a show, and he would call in. People would just call in for anything. They would call and go, "Hey, the light isn't working on 3rd Street in Brooklyn." He goes, "Was that right?" And his guy, Julian's guy, would be right there, write it down, go fix the light on 3rd Street. Like that kind of thing would happen. He'd just talk to people and answer questions. He'd ask, and he did it. And then when he left and Bloomberg became mayor, Bloomberg kept it. He kept it. And I was like, okay, I like that. Now, de Blasio didn't, because de Blasio was the worst governor, worst mayor we've had. He was worse than Adams. Adams is terrible, and I would still rather, as bad as Adams is, and Adams is bad, he's better than de Blasio. Because anybody is better than de Blasio. Anybody. Just pick a random person off of a random street in a random country, make them mayor of New York. They are better than de Blasio. So, as terrible as Adams is, and he is terrible, better than de Blasio. So we made a step up. There was literally, you know, say raise the bar. De Blasio, there's no bar. There is no bar. You just walk and you pass the bar. Anybody was better than him. So now you know how I feel about that. In any case, so I copied that in 2018, and I had a weekly show when I was running, and I called the Gov Shack. My daughter did the artwork for it. So I did the Gov Shack. The Gov Shack I did every week. The same thing. But I think it was like 2 hours or something. It was a longer show. So yeah, so I've been doing it ever since. And now I started the Sharpe way. I started that in 2019, 2020, 2019. Yes, because I got slammed when the lockdowns came in 2020. I started Sharpe way in 2019. Doing the same thing. Live shows, talking to people. This way you know who I am. You see who I am. It's always live and no notes. That's the issue. It's live and no notes. Scientific Libertarian says, well, now I'm insulted, you think I have feelings. I did think you had feelings. Do you not? You can be scientific and still have feelings. You tell me no scientists have feelings? Come on now. You can still have feelings. I mean, I'm not saying you do. Maybe you don't. But you shouldn't assume that. Absolutely. You shouldn't assume that. You know. All righty. Let's see. The anti-corporate says, cool, I'll have to hit you up when I'm running to unseat my MAGA congressman. 100%. Yes. Absolutely. 100%. Yes. Totally okay with that. So, all righty. Let me see if I can grab a couple more of these down here. I do appreciate all of these. Yes. All righty. Mike says, I remember, if you want real permanent change, then elections, which policies change depending upon the party, is constitutional amendment through convention of states, which I knew. Yes. Yes. And I got to tell you, it's funny. I actually thought for many years that the convention of states was a bad idea. I did. I no longer think that, but I did. I was afraid. I thought, just going to make us all communist. That's what I thought. I have changed my mind. I've had more than one person on my show talking about it. I had friends talking about it. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. I think it's not a bad idea, because no matter what, we have the conversations. So yes, I'm on board, Mike. I completely agree. Yes. Yep. All righty. Let's see here. Morgan says, anoint Harris. They did, didn't they? I mean, you know, I have, in fact, you too, Morgan. You and I, Morgan, we have won exactly the same amount of primaries as she has. We have. We've won the same amount of primaries that she's won. Yeah, it's true. And she just was like, done. There we go. Done. Absolutely. So yeah, I would go anoint. I think so. Yes. All righty. Grab a couple more of these if I could. All righty. The anti-corporate says, and also the Dems always win California, New York by millions of votes. Yes, they do. It doesn't mean that we can't take some of those. Right? It doesn't mean that we couldn't take some of those. We absolutely could. That's something that we absolutely could do. Yes. All righty. Andrew says, if you have an abundance of capital and resources, you could try a healthy balance of traditional and social media. Yes, but let me walk down this road. Generally speaking, if you have a good enough social media presence, you can get mainstream media. If that makes any sense. Traditional media, you can. Because what winds up happening is, as you become more popular, now the mainstream begins to want you. So you can do that too. I agree. If you're buying the polls, buying some ads, you can get both. And I think the answer actually is you do want both. I agree with you. I think you absolutely do want that. Absolutely. Yes. So Lexa says, I went to prison in Georgia for 3 drug possession charges, despite never having been caught with drugs. You're not the only person I know who did that. My mother was a felon. I don't know if I shared it. I tell her all the time. She's a felon. And one of her charges was it was in her house. Somebody brought it into her house. Now, to be forward, my mom was an addict and used drugs and had drugs on her. She did. My mom was an addict. 100% is true. And she did. But that's not why she went to prison. She went to prison because someone else had drugs in her house. So, yes, I get that completely. I understand that completely. So, yes, it sounds crazy, but yeah, that's it. So, Pinkerbell says, starter prison? I guess. Morgan says, there are prisons around the country that are taking a more humanitarian approach to corrections. Not many, but it's happening. I think you do have to do that. The issue becomes, and here's the hardest part, you have to find a way to figure out which people are going to be able to respond. Now, some countries have already done that very well. There are countries who have already done it, to your point. We are not paying attention to any of them. Why? We have unions who don't care. We have judges who are making money who don't care. We have privatized prisons who don't care. We have to find a situation to where we can find a way, because to be forward with you, Morgan, again, there are people who should never be out of prison. There are some who just never should be out. I get it. And we want to get them back in as soon as possible because they're bad, they exist. But as we also know, that is in nowhere near the majority. Most people, they go to prison, they screw up. If they have a chance at success, they will take it. By the way, there's a magic number, by the way. There is. The magic number is 5 years. If a felon gets out of prison and is able to work for 5 years in a row, the odds of them committing a crime is lower than the average American who's never been to prison. You get a safer society at that point. I guess the odds are put everybody in prison, have them come out, give them jobs for 5 years, safer society. See, I've solved the problems. Done, Morgan. We all go to jail. No, but my point being, there is actually you're right. We have to look at that. Now, the issue is if you give people actual chances with actual jobs, an actual world where they can actually do well, you find that people usually, they do come back. They do get themselves back. My mother was a felon, and when she got out of prison, I helped her. I tell the story often. I got her out. She had 2 garbage bags. That's all she had with her entire life. I took her out. I was just in the Marine Corps. I took my savings that I had. I got her a car, an apartment, and we got her a job as a waitress in a local diner, which is one of the reasons why I always go to diners whenever I go traveling. I hit diners all the time. And why I always tip well, because my mom literally was a waitress. And that's what gave her the second chance. Nobody else wanted to hire her. She was a felon. Former addict and a felon. Who wants to hire her? Right? People don't. But who will? Some local entrepreneur, which is why I support entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are the ones who help people get back on their feet. Big businesses literally have policies to ensure they don't hire those people, right? They have a system in their HR to not hire these people. Entrepreneurs, they give people second chances all the time. They gave my mom a second chance. She worked. She was clean until the day she died. She then went back to prison, never committed a crime. She was good. That was her time, and she screwed up, and that was the end. And she was good. And so, yes, I think most people are that. There are some who are not. And let's just make sure we can rotate through those people who are not. That's my only issue. But yes. And she says, I take pity on anyone who gets out of prison, getting hired and finding anyone who will rent to them. Yes, which is why I got you. Exactly what I was just saying, Nancy. I rented the apartment for her, right? So I paid the money up front. I emptied my savings. I got her. She had nothing. She had literally 2 garbage bags. That's all she had. That was everything. She was, how old was she then? 40 something? 40 something year old woman. 2 garbage bags. Her whole life. I was her only son. I still, she only had 1 kid, me. So I showed up. I was, where was I stationed? I forgot. Somewhere. I forgot what state. I just went up there and said, okay, I'm going to take care of you. Took time off from the Marine Corps, took some leave, went up there, set her all up, got her going, and went back to Marine Corps. That's what I did. And I was a support system. And for anyone who has been through that, look, everyone has addicts in their life if it's not you. We all know an addict in our life. If it isn't us, we know somebody in our world who's been an addict. what an addict needs when they're trying to get clean is a support system, whatever that is. For some people, that's like a 12-step program. Some people, that's just family and friends. Some people, that's church. You do you, but you got to have some kind of support system or you're going to fail. It's how it works. My mom's support system was me. That's fine. Whatever was going to work for you. And I think it worked for her. But yes, I take pity too. I know that most people, if you give them a shot, they will be fine. Some people will not. And those people are going back to jail anyway. So, and good. Get them back in. Get them back in because some people are that bad. Again, not most. So anyway, yes. All right. Let's see here. The anti-corporatist says, are you saying that you did everything right, Larry? Everything. I am perfect. Of course. Larry at 2 times speed? Can you possibly understand me at 2 times speed? Do you know how fast I talk? Pick a bell, please. If you can understand me at 2 times speed, you have like magical hearing. That's it. Yes, absolutely. Alexa says, my boyfriend is quoting, I'm not joking, and he doesn't even watch the show. I've just been binging so much lately. I appreciate that. Good. Yes, absolutely. I love that. 2 times speed's crazy though. Yeah, that's crazy. But okay, if you can do it, that's amazing. I hope you can. All righty. So let's see here. Shelly says, is anyone else scared that because Chris Cuomo turned on the current candidate that they'll switch her out for Andrew Cuomo? What? Is anyone scared that because Chris Cuomo turned on the current candidate that they'll switch her out for Andrew Cuomo? Oh, no. Cuomo might run again. That is possible. The rumors that I've heard is Cuomo, not Chris Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo, may run again, but he may run for either mayor of New York or senator in New York State, that he will not run for governor again. That is what I've heard. And that seems to make sense to me. I could see that for sure. I could see him doing that. He is still popular enough, and he wrote his book saying why he didn't grab people's butts or whatever he wrote. I could definitely see that. That is a possible thing. Yes. Yeah. Alexa says, I wish I'd help when I got out. Yes, it is the number one thing, Alexa. Someone's, you got to be there, right? For somebody. You have to. It is very tough. Yes. The anti-corporate says you can get a tax credit for hiring felons. Well, what I talk about, my whole thing was, if you hire a felon and an individual felon, there is absolutely, I was saying there'd be no payroll tax for that felon for the first 2 years. And people say, well, then Larry, they'll just hire felons for 2 years and then fire them so they can hire another felon so they can keep getting the tax break. Good. Train my felon force. Now that person has 2 years in a resume. Keep doing it. Get more. I hope everyone does that. I hope every place in New York State does that. Keep hiring felons, giving them a resume, giving them 2 years of experience, and let another guy do it. Yes, please do that. Rotate between the two companies, back and forth. But Larry, will lose all that, revenue. No, I'm training my felon force and not going back to jail. I'm not paying for them in jail. No, I'm losing no money. I'm making money because they're training my felons. I thought exactly that, right? You start doing that. And another thing is, my other idea was if you have over, right? If you have over, I was thinking my number was 15, but it could be 20, whatever number is, over X amount of employees, and over half are felons, and you retain that level of that, literally none. And I mean, no payroll tax, period. Just end it for you. As long as you're keeping that level of felons on your payroll, no, don't pay any, because you're now keeping them all out of jail. Done. You're doing your duty. I don't need your tax money. I don't need your tax money. Keep them out of jail. Yes. So yeah, I agree with you completely. That is a way you want people to do that, right? Shelby is another piece. Problem is that felons can't hang with other felons, so they can't even start a business together. Yes, also stupid. The whole idea of our parole system is terrible. So, okay, you can't get public housing. Why? Because you're a felon. Why? You can't hang with other felons. That's all you know. What are you talking about? So you can't go back to your support structure? That's your support structure. You would be supporting them. It's like saying when veterans get out of the military, they can't hang out with other veterans. What are you talking about? That's our support structure. Yeah, insanely stupid. You're right, Shelly. That is terrible. That whole idea is so broken. I can't stand that. It is terrible. Yes. Angelo says, I was a paralegal here in Georgia. When you serve 1 year or 20, you get the same. A bus ticket and $25. Wow. Wow. Good luck with that. That's not going to go well. Wow. Well, there we go. There we go. Ryan says, I hope there's a biopic coming out called I'm Not Joking, the Larry Sharpe story. Maybe. That's not bad. I don't mind that one. Yeah. Morgan says, hold on, says probation's last parole is so effed. 100% true. 100% true. It's utterly broken. We have to fix this. I completely agree. It is terrible, right? It is terrible. I do think we have to fix this. It's a terrible idea. 100% I agree. Guys, I went way out of this, but let me quickly go back to this. Guys, please click the button that is like. I know I ask you because I do get hammered all the time. Please do so. If you're watching on Twitter or Facebook, please retweet this, share this, let people know. If you happen to be on YouTube, subscribe if you haven't. Sadly, I looked at my numbers. The vast majority of people who watch this show do not subscribe. I don't get it. Please subscribe. Click that bell for notifications. Please do that. It does matter if you do it. If you want to super chat me, those of you who have, thank you so much for all your super chats. I think that's amazing. I love it every time you do that. It just makes everything easier and better. So every single time you do that, you understand that the rhythm, Mr. Al Gore, he loves that. And become a member, that's always great. $4.99 per month. You click that join, it always works. I appreciate that. But either way, every little bit counts. Alrighty, I want to do more of this if I can. That's my whole issue. If I can do more of this, I'd like to be doing this every day. And I try to do it every day if I can. But sometimes I have to go work too. I got to pay my bills too. It's like, oh, you guys do. We all got to pay bills. The last thing I'm going to ask you is after this is over, please head back, drop a comment wherever you are watching, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Facebook, whatever it is. Please drop a comment if you can. Doesn't matter what you write. Just write hi for Mr. Rhythm. That's fine too. Doesn't matter. Whatever you write a comment. I'll respond. More everything. I appreciate it, guys. I will not be on tomorrow. I'll be spending time with my lovely daughter who is 20 years old and heading back to college. I'll be spending time with her tomorrow, but I will be on Thursday. Tomorrow I'll also be in court, hopefully giving you guys a good answer for what happens in court tomorrow, federal court. And I'll be seeing you all on Thursday. I will see you all very soon.